This episode of Brown Girl Guild is sponsored by BizPod Vancouver. BizPod is an accountability group founded by a group of passionate entrepreneurs who saw how isolating entrepreneurship can be and sought to curb it. With carefully curated groups or pods, BizPod aims to fill the gaps in our current community and support entrepreneurs in their journeys. I actually became a member of BizPod 6 months ago, and I can't even begin to tell you how much exponential value it has added to my life. I wasn't even able to consider myself a businesswoman until all my pod members made me realize I am. Now, with the help of BizPod, I always say, I'm Kelly Kapoor, the business bitch. BizPod is actively looking for more pod members, so if you're looking for some TLC during your business journey, you should definitely hit us up. Check us out on Instagram at BizPod Vancouver or online at bizpod.ca. Hi, friends. It's your girl Harpo. Welcome to this episode of Brown Girl Guild titled Sweatpants, Hair Tied, Chillin' with No Makeup On. That's when you're the prettiest. I hope that you don't take it wrong. You ain't even tripping, friends, and you ain't bringing Drake along. You know that I'm working. I'll be there soon as I make it home. Now, that's not the title of the episode. The title of the episode is just Sweatpants, Hair Tied. And this season at Brown Girl Guild, we're exploring what it's like to be a teenager and what it was like for us when we were teenagers, if we're not teenagers right now, and sort of to revisit this teenage fever, this teen angst, these feelings of awkwardness and, what it was like to go through puberty. And it's because, very candidly, I feel like I'm experiencing a second puberty right now in my life. And this exploration of my body, of my limitations, of my expression, my identity that I was experiencing as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old is something that I'm starting to navigate now as a 25-year-old as well. And what we've been saying all season long is that this not knowingness that you experience as a teenager where you're confused and the world is new and you're exploring it, this not knowingness is not necessarily confined just to a teenager. It's something that you can experience at any stage of your life, and you can experience this not knowingness either at 25, 45, or even 65. So for this episode, I want to start off with a story about a teacher that I had in high school. And she's a teacher that sticks out to me when I really look back to my high school years as someone that I really felt connected with, someone that really, really inspired me. And I'm manifesting her right now. So I actually don't have her contact information. I just know her full name. Her name is Sheena Johnson, Miss Johnson. This is who I'm manifesting. I just want the universe to bring her to me because I really have no way to look out for her. I don't have a contact information. I've tried to Google her. I've tried to look her up on social media. I just can't find her. And it's sort of that situation where I don't know if you guys saw where Adele was on stage and she was performing, and then her teacher from grade 5 surprised her in the crowd, and then she started crying and the teacher started crying and I started crying. That's what I want my moment to feel like. And it's because Miss Johnson was probably one of the first examples of women that I really connected with. So I was in grade 9. She was my English teacher. She was also a drama teacher, not at our school, but she was a drama teacher. She was like a drama kid at heart. And she had a car. Her license plate was drama queen. She used to dress really cute, used to wear bright lipsticks, had funky glasses. And her personality was just so inviting and it was so warm. And I remember when she became my teacher, instantly I felt more connected to myself. For real, I feel like for so long, I was someone who enjoyed English literature. I enjoyed different poetry and different poets and writers. And I didn't have access to that world. And then she came into my world, and all of a sudden I was able to experience things that I liked that I didn't have a chance to really explore before. And she was so colorful, so bold. She always made us do these exercises that helped us see the world in a different way. I remember one particular time she walked into the classroom and she started off by saying global news said that NASA is doing et cetera, and all this kind of stuff. And we were shocked. We were wow, that's so cool that this is happening in the world. We were so surprised. And then she led us through an exercise. And actually, she was the first person who introduced me to Mumford and Sons. And there's a particular album by Mumford and Sons called Wilder Mind. And there's a song in that album that really Oh my god, like, it's my song. Like, do you ever have a song that you play when you are feeling down or you need inspiration or you need, like, the universe to speak to you? That's my song, and it's by Mumford& and Sons, and she was the first person to introduce me to Mumford& and Sons when I was, like, 14. So, anyway, this exercise that she did was she came in and she led us through this, exploration of, let's just say X, and at the end of the exercise, what she was basically trying to teach us was that when she walked into the classroom and mentioned that global news and NASA did et cetera, we automatically believed it as students. And her entire premise was that just because she used words like global and she used words like NASA doesn't necessarily mean that we should believe everything that we hear. And that as young people, it's up to us to really form our own opinions and to create our own ideas about things without the bias of what we're supposed to do. And that exercise really stuck with me because it gave me a lens through which I could see the media, see the world through, without fully believing everything that I see and hear. I have to have it. It has to be like I have to essentially like choose for myself what I truly believe. And so Miss Johnson was this amazing woman who was really an example of what I could be and all the heights that I could soar. And I think that it was such a stark contrast to like what my experience in high school was like overall because we were all not that. Like, we were not colorful. We were not expressing ourselves. We were not showcasing our identities for the most part. I mean, this might be similar to high schools currently, and it might be similar to your experience in high school as you're listening to this, but we all had pin straight hair. Pin straight hair. Nobody curled their hair. Nobody had volume in their hair. Everybody wore the exact same clothes. Everybody's face looked the same. We didn't even experiment much with makeup. Anyone that did was like, "Oh, look at you wearing makeup to Tamano Secondary School and at the age of 14." Like we had like an assembly line situation of an identity. We were all supposed to look the same. We were supposed to sound the same. We were supposed to use the same sort of vocabulary. And so we didn't really know at that age that like the way that we dressed could be an expression of ourselves. Like the our outfits could tell stories and that like the way that we styled our hair had, everything to do with how we were feeling. There was no individuality. And so Miss Johnson stuck out to me as somebody who had so much identity, so much personality, so much authenticity, and again, it was in stark contrast to like what was actually happening at school. And I think it has to do with a lot of our conditioning, right? Like, so if you are different, you'll stick out like a sore thumb, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to stick out. Nobody wants to bring attention to themselves. And I think that it was also facilitated a lot inside my home as well, inside my like extended family, in that, there was a lack of like really strong, authentic women in my life. Most of the women, that I grew up with were really like passive. They kept their needs to themselves. They didn't really rock the boat. They didn't actually have very many opinions or feelings on things, and they were often left out of like big conversations. And anytime that I did look out for any examples of strong brown women in my life, I really came back, like it always came back short. um, I remember like really connecting with, let's say, Madhuri Dixit as a kid. She was so cool, like she was so fun and flavorful and sexy and bold, and yet still there was a part of her that I feel like I couldn't fully connect with because our life circumstances were different. Like she was a Bollywood actress, she was untouchable. So even though, yes, there was so much resonance, I still couldn't fully connect with her. And so I always felt like I was constantly looking around me all the time for strong brown women. And a lot of women in media, pop culture, don't necessarily like embrace their individuality. At least when I was growing up, I felt like I couldn't really tell any of the Bollywood actresses from one another. And then like there was nobody that I was watching on TV in pop culture and mainstream pop culture that was brown or looked like me or sounded like me or had like any like remotely any sort of experiences related to what I did. And then I feel like now currently what's happening is that, when we do have someone like that in our community, we're only really given one, right? I love the example of Rupi Kaur because, Rupi has done something that so many of us, have always wanted to do. And she was kind of like the first person to like break out into mainstream and do it. And even though there's so much room for so many more like her who look like her, sound like her, have similar names like her, even though there's so much room for it, we're often told that we already have our representation, right? We're told like, well, you already have a Rupi, so why do you need another one? Like, why do you need a Harpo? Why do you need a Jasleen? Like, why do you need a Manpreet? And I think like that in and of itself is so limiting, and so it's so hard to look out and find authentic brown women that feel like really like they're one of us, right? It's so hard to do that, and so you can't find resonance with that. And I always say that you can't become what you can't see, right? So we have to be able to see the possibilities of what we can potentially be for us to have a fair shot at ever being what it is that we truly want to be as well. I think also in the time that we're forming our identities without examples, we don't really get to see what it's like to truly love ourselves, right? So if all we're ever doing is just being like everybody else, and the environment that we're in is encouraging that behavior, it's encouraging us to look like everybody else, sound like everybody else, and like, well, so and so is doing that, so you should also do the same thing as well. Um, the concept of self love is like missing, right? It's just not there. And so if you don't have examples of people who are embracing themselves and loving themselves, it's really hard to go out and then take that on your own and to really practice it on your own. It's really hard to learn how to love yourself without any true examples around you. The one thing that I've noticed is that anytime that there has been any brown women who I see unapologetically loving themselves and I've connected with them, I've really connected with their energy and their essence. There are a lot of people, men, in my life around me who, by way of misogyny, will tell me that this person is not a good example, right? So there's so many women in my life who I've looked up to, whether they were like celebrities or whether they were just like prominent women in the community. Anytime that I've either connected with them or crossed paths with them or expressed that I really, resonate with them, a lot of the uncles in my life, or a lot of the like men that I have in my life that are my friends, they'll always put that woman down. They'll always find something to connect to her with, which is like, shameful, or it's something that's dishonorable. And it's so frustrating because it's like, well, that's exactly what I'm connecting with. I'm connecting with the boldness, the authenticity, the fact that she is being loud and she is being disruptive. And sometimes, like, not even loud and disruptive, honestly. Sometimes she's just being herself, and just being herself is what is disruptive and loud to these people. And so if you're constantly policing who I can connect with and who I can resonate with and who it is that I look up to, it really leaves no room for me to just connect with them, right? I feel like I'm constantly having to defend why I feel particularly connected with certain people. And so it's been really hard to look out and find strong brown women who are exemplary of the kind of woman that I want to be. And I get messages all the time from girls, women all the time who message me and say things like, Harpo, like, I see so much of myself in you. Like when you share something, I always think, oh, I felt that too, or I've experienced that too, or this is something that I'm going through as well. And there's so much resonance, right? Like when you guys are listening to these podcast episodes, I know that you're seeing yourselves in my stories. I know that you're like, wow, she sounds like me. Wow, it feels like, we're friends. And I get messages all the time with girls asking me, like, can we be friends? Like, can we go out for a coffee? Can we hang out? And what I love to say, and I will say it publicly in this space, and this is something I say in the DMs all the time, is that we are mirrors for each other. Like, I am not here and I do not exist, and my stories do not come to life if there is no you, right? Like, you see in me what you already have in you. And that's why you connect with me. It's not because I'm far removed from you or I'm like distant from you. You only connect with me in the way that you do because there's an essence of that in you already, right? And again, you wouldn't have known that. We wouldn't have known that. I wouldn't have known that had there not been examples of strong brown women around us who are doing their thing and who are connecting with it, right? Who are shining their light. And the thing about shining your light is that when we start to shine our own light, we start to give permission to everyone around us to also shine their light as well. Because what you're saying is like, hey, I'm expressing myself and I have found safety in that expression. And this is how I'm cultivating that safety and I'm upholding that safety. And this is how I feel like you can also do it as well. And even if I'm not explicitly saying this is how you can do it, you automatically start to learn how to create safety around your own expression as well, right? It just happens that way. And what I love is, a DM that I received recently is someone said, Harpo, when I see you doing et cetera, I always think to myself, if she can do it, why can't I? And it's, if she can do it, so can I. And that right there is like the best part, right? It's like, yeah, okay, well, Harpo's doing it and she's like a tiny little brown girl just like me. She's 5'1" just like me. And she only, she's not that crazy, and I feel like I could do that too. So if she's doing it, why can't I do it? And that part in and of itself is amazing. I think high school doesn't necessarily breed individuality. Truly, I feel like so many of us move through our high school years, not necessarily learning that individuality is cool, right? And I feel like the people that embrace themselves the most always end up being like the coolest. Truly, like I feel like when you're wearing whatever you want to wear and you're saying what you want to say and you're moving through the world in the way that truly feels authentic to you, there is nothing that you can't do. And there is no opportunity that really is for you that will be missed. Right. And also, like, it's cool. It's cool to be yourself. I was in a yoga session earlier, and the theme of that, the class that the instructor chose to sort of lead us in through was dharma. And what dharma means is your purpose. It's like your life's purpose. And she just kept asking us as we were moving through and holding our poses and, exercising our breath. She kept saying, like, think about your dharma, think about what it is that is your life purpose. And every time, what kept coming back to me was to just be Harpo. It wasn't to be Brown Girl Guilt. It wasn't to be GM of 5X. It wasn't to, like, be et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't to be like TikTok famous or anything. What kept coming back to me was to just be myself. And she says that, the instructor, Camila, bless her heart, she says that your dharma is what will lead you to your spiritual awakening. It's what will lead you to spiritual fulfillment. And I guess like fulfillment in general, if spirituality is not your jam. And so if being myself is my purpose and that is what's going to lead me to like full, complete happiness and joy and success in life, then that is what I need to commit myself to, right? Like really embracing my individuality, embracing what it means to be Harpo. And I think that's what adulthood really is. I feel like it's exploring you. It's exploring what you like to wear, what you like to do, what you don't like to do. I catch myself all the time now as a 25-year-old in a scenario, in a situation, doing something that I used to love doing. And then all of a sudden, I'm like sitting there, like, Soryobuti. I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm not having fun. I don't want to do this. And I'm like really like antsy about it. Or like I'm really strict and I'm like, I'm not having a good time. And you can see it on my face. At first I was like, is something wrong with me? Like, why do I not enjoy this? Like I'm used to like doing this. And what's going on? And then I realized that's me learning more about me. Like I'm ever changing, I'm ever growing. It's something that I used to like doing before, I might not like doing now. And I can either sit there and judge myself on it, right? I can guilt trip myself into having a good time, but I'm not going to do that because all of my adulthood now is centered around learning what I like to do and what I don't like to do, who I am, right? There were times in high school where if I was wearing a cute outfit, I remember I would walk through the hallways and immediately I'd be shot down. People would be like, wow, you're so dressed up today. Like, why are you so dressed up? Like, is it your birthday or is it somebody else's birthday? And this idea that like what like how we're treating ourselves or like the way that we're celebrating ourselves or presenting ourselves has to be attached to something external to us is just crazy. It's just so stupid, right? Sometimes I feel like I reserve special outfits in my closet for when a lot of people can see me. And then some days I'm like, I'm having a good day. Like I'm really having a good day. Something really good happened. Maybe I got a raise. Maybe, a podcast episode performed really well. Maybe I secured a client that I've been wanting to secure for a while. It's like, why is that outfit just sitting in my closet, right? Like I should put it on and celebrate myself because I'm having a good day. Nobody else has to see me, but at least I'm seeing me, right? And so I feel like it's right now in our day and age, it's really cool to be yourself, like straight up. I think that it's really, really important that we follow that pursuit of finding ourselves because it's cool to be yourself. It truly is. And I wish somebody told me that when I was 14 or 15, right? I really wish somebody said to me, like, Harpo, it's cool for you to be yourself. It's cool for you to be who you are. And I think that the only person that I can look back to, and even though she didn't explicitly say it, but the one person that made me truly believe it and feel it was Miss Johnson, Miss Sheena Johnson. She had a website back in the day. It was called Sheen Dog. And on that website, she used to have like everything that she was, right? Like she was a drama teacher, English teacher, she was an actor herself, she played the guitar. She also baked these bomb chocolate chip cookies and she had the recipe on her site. And I feel like when I look out to think about how I want to create Harpo and how I want Harpo to be experienced in the world, that's how I want to be experienced, is like the fullest expression of me, not just this one label, not just this one box, but all of me. And so I am actively manifesting Miss Johnson to come to me. I can't go to her because I have no way to start how to get to her, but I'm definitely manifesting her. So if she's your teacher right now, or Miss Johnson, Sheena Johnson, I don't know, maybe she got married, maybe she changed her last name. I don't know. She had like fiery red hair. If anyone knows Miss Johnson, okay, y'all got to send her to me, okay? You got to send her this episode. Don't tell her. Be like, hey, you should listen to this episode so she can listen to it. And then, Miss Johnson, if you end up making it to the end of this episode, you should hit me up on Instagram at It's Harpo, or you can send me an email as well. We should just connect. I'm manifesting you actively right now. And I'm also manifesting for all of us that we truly connect with ourselves, like truly come back to who it is that we really are. Because I'm telling you, to be you is to be cool.